My bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say...
I started noticing signs of problems with my memory back in 2003. I wasn't even 50 years old. I was studying for my doctorate at McCormick Theological Seminary, and I couldn't remember the classes that I'd taken. I couldn't remember the books that I read, but there were notes in the margin. I couldn't remember my fellow students. So I was very cognizant that it wasn't normal. When I first started bringing this up with my doctor, that maybe it was stress related, that I was working so hard, juggling being a full-time pastor, full-time mom, a doctoral candidate, all these things. You know, they were trying, it wasn't that they weren't trying to figure it out, it just took a while because of my age. I was diagnosed in 2011 with amnestic mild cognitive impairment. In some way, it was a relief. I know that sounds crazy, but there was something wrong with my brain. I think part of it was relief, part of it was sadness, part of it was, oh my gosh, my life is going to be different. I had to go through all the grieving stages. It was hard. I was going 100 miles an hour and all of a sudden everything stopped with this diagnosis. So I had to really figure out what I wanted to do with my time and my life. And so it was like, what do I do next? And so I had to kind of move from why me to what next. The month that you're not going to go?
Well, I've known Cynthia for 9 years. I met her in January of 2009, and she was diagnosed, I believe, in 2011. She was actually my pastor at the church I started going to. Well, what I've noticed over time since when I first met Cynthia, that she has trouble with time management. She has trouble with understanding things like shows on TV and things like to follow the point, like to understand what is actually the point of what she's watching, or if, especially with reading. She was an avid reader, and now she's unable to remember anything that she read. I can see where so many people see her and they say, "You don't look like you look fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Are you sure?" I'm forgetful too.
There was a lot of, I'm not sure you have Alzheimer's, you look fine. You know, we all forget things. Just yesterday I forgot my keys. And so there's dismissing, and I think people do that because, for a lot of reasons. One is I think that they're afraid that if I can have it, they might have it. There's a myth that you can't learn anything new when you've got a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. And again, nothing could be farther than the truth. I'm taking classes at Elmira College. I just finished 2 years of French, bonjour, bonjour, which I love. Right now I'm taking art history, and I don't do it to remember information. I do it to be engaged. I started a kayaking club 2 summers ago. I always thought it would be fun to kayak. You can learn new things. You might have to adapt them. You might have to change the way you do something. I am very active day to day. No 2 days are the same, and I'm happy as can be. I take much better care of myself physically, and with regard to exercise, I make sure I get that in, that's part of my medicine, if you will.
Just try to bring it all the way up to your ears.
Okay. I have known Cynthia for a few weeks now. The first time that I met her was our first day of class, and that's when she introduced herself and gave her story.
You can eventually go up with both.
From day one, she told me what her symptoms were, and I thought, okay. And she told me every eight times of seeing someone, she might not remember me because it takes her about 8 times to remember a face. And so I thought, okay, when Thursday comes around, because our course is Tuesday, Thursday, I thought, okay, day 2, she might not remember me. So I was a little bit more on guard of, okay, I might need to look out for her and say, hey, Cynthia, it's Caitlin. But she came up to me, she said my name, and I thought, oh, okay, this is great. She remembers me. I try to treat her just as every other person in the class, and it was wild for me to think, you know, she's keeping up really well, and she doesn't ask as many questions as I thought she would.
She lives independently. She knows she has to do everything because she doesn't have a backup.
I make decisions from the crack of day till when I go to bed at night. You know, I get up, I decide what I'm going to wear, what I'm going to eat. I look at my calendar to see what's on the calendar. I make decisions about what activities I want to participate in or don't want to participate in. I try to think it through. And so I set up bags on my bench so that every day when I have an activity, I take what I need to do that activity. I set myself a goal. The end of this year, when I turn 65, I'll start to look for different housing. What I'd like to do is move into a community where they have graded levels of care. So if I go in living independently, in an independent living situation, and as my condition changes and I need more help, that I'll be within a community that can move with me as I need more care to assisted living and then eventually to the dementia care unit. But I think that there's so many myths out there. So I think one of my jobs is to dispel the myths. Being open about my diagnosis reduces the stigma. It gets the word out that people don't have to be ashamed. And that's really what my mission is. I think that God has given me is to help other people on this journey who maybe are feeling ashamed or embarrassed because of their cognitive challenges. And if I can help it, make it easier for somebody else, that's a wonderful feeling. I have a wonderful life. I really do. People will say, well, how can you have a wonderful life with Alzheimer's? Because my life is full of friendships, it's full of challenges, every day is different. And I think it starts with that mindset of accepting a diagnosis, to say, it is what it is, and then to say, well, how can I make today a better day for myself and for somebody else? When I look ahead, I want to spend more time with my granddaughter, Kate. I just love taking her out in the stroller and talking to her. My sadness is that she won't know me. As my disease progresses, she won't know how I am. And I want her so much to know how much I love her, you know? That's my sadness. But I still have lots of adventures ahead.
Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh babe, I hate to